have a story to tell you. Everybody has a little bit of a story. I'm going to tell you how I joke and say that I learned how to add and subtract by the little calorie counting book. My mother's was from 1954, and she kept it in our kitchen drawer. Mine is from 1978, and I keep it in the kitchen drawer. In it, it'll tell you the calories of many, many things. Like on page 44, a pickled cucumber, a dill one, a 4-ounce one, is 13 calories. So dinners were planned according to what was in this book. It was like you'd plan a meal and you'd go get the calorie book and say, well, we're going to make that without butter. We're going to make it with olive oil instead. I still know the calories of everything and know how to add them up at the end of the day. And in our household, it was a family of 4, and we sat at dinner, and dinner was always discussed what you were eating, why you were eating it, whether it was going to make you fat. Fat was a big word at our house, and never was skinny. Skinny wasn't such a word, but that could make you fat. Do you really want extra cookies? You don't need extra cookies. The size of my body I began to associate with my self-worth, whether or not I was the right size, whether I was too big or too small. And being too small was never really mentioned too often, but you could always be too big. But you could never quite find, or I never really quite found that exact point. Some days it was like, you're looking tired or thin. Did you have lunch? Or it was, really, that haircut makes your face look fat. Maybe you should try another haircut. Even at the doctor, I think she's getting a little too heavy. I'm really not that big of a person, but it was always part of our discussion, as well as the neighbors, what the size of neighbors were, people walking down the street. You never really heard that somebody got too thin. Throughout my life, I always connected numbers with calories. I was never particularly good in math, but I'm very good at counting calories. In our household, sweets weren't a big deal. The 1 box of cookies for the week was what it was. And you got your 2 here or your 2 there. I've always had a sweet tooth. And my mother liked Heath bars. And they used to come in a box, like a real candy box that kids didn't get. I had 2 layers of little Heath bars. And she probably would eat 1 a week or 1 every 3 days. And she'd hide it from us. And I don't know how I knew she had it hidden under the couch, but it was under the couch, tucked under this little thing, and I found it one day. I'd go there and I just would eat the whole bottom layer, and she had 1 layer. So I always kept track of calories, but never was writing it down. I used to try and think of ways to keep track of things. And 29 years ago, I started taking and keeping track of calories. Actually, it was a friend, a dancer friend, who said, "Ooh, I keep track of my calories every day." I said, "You do?" And it was like, "Yeah, you write it down, you know what you've got for calories for the day." So at that time, I wound up starting with these little pieces of paper, where I have a whole case of these notepads. So what happened with them, take 7 little pages and staple them together at the top. And on the top is the date that it starts, my waist measurement, my hips, and my thighs. Because I don't have a scale, because I go crazy with a scale in the house. I write down all the food that I ate and all the calories I had for the day. And at the bottom left-hand side is how many calories I had for that day. And on each day, I write the same thing. At the end of the week, I average it out of how many calories I had for that week. So I always know how many calories I've had for this week, last week, the week before. And when I buy a purse, I like purses. I have all kinds of things, as all women do. My lipsticks are here, my wallet's here, my this is there. But they always have to have a little teeny slot when I'm buying a purse that paper will fit into, because I always have it with me. And anything that you want to tell me for sure that I will never forget is written on the back. So 14 years ago, I thought, well, how crazy is this? I have a vanity, and the whole instead of having it be with makeup or girly things, was filled with these rows and rows and rows and rows and rows of paper of all my calories. I threw every single one out and called it a day and said, that's it. There's no reason to know. You eat the same amount of calories week after week, year after year. 3 days later, I just couldn't stand it, and I started again. Now I have 15 years worth of notes as far as every calorie I've eaten. But am I pretty yet?